Okay, it's the final week-ish of December right now, so that means that we're back with another money wrap-up video. And in this video specifically, we want to cover pretty much everything that happened with our money this year. So specifically how much we made, saved, and invested in 2024. Now we're gonna have another video coming out next week that talks about all of our plans for next year. So all of the changes that we're gonna make to our budget tracker, which by the way is fully updated now. You can get it down below in the description box. But also if we're gonna change up our income for the year, any changes or plans for our investment strategy, basically anything that we're gonna do differently for our money next year. But in this video, we're gonna be reflecting on what's already happened, which I actually always think is really fun, so I'm excited for it. So quick background on us, which a lot of you guys already know. Dennis and I have been self-employed for almost 3.5 years now, which feels insanely crazy to me. I was actually just thinking the other day that we graduated from university 6.5 years ago. So since we've been doing this for almost 3.5 years, that means that we've been self-employed, working for ourselves for over half of that time officially, which I don't even understand where the time's gone, but it's really cool to actually see that number and hit that milestone, I guess, if you want to call it that, because we really love being entrepreneurs. We love working for ourselves and posting personal finance content online. Anyways, with being self-employed, I feel like it's always really fun to check in on our own personal financial journeys and progress, because we obviously set our own salaries, right? It's based on what our business made for the last year, what we project to make for the next year, but just in general, even though Dennis and I are both pretty planned and organized people, there's still a lot of unknown. So to give you an overview of how this past year went, it was definitely our most steady year yet. We paid ourselves out the same set salary every single month, so all 12 months of the year, which was $4,459.91 per month each. And what was really nice about that is we could afford to actually cover our expenses, but still invest a good chunk of money. Now, by the way, the reason that number is so specific is because we kind of worked backwards. So us, along with our accountant, we figured out that we wanted to and could afford to pay ourselves out a salary of $70,000 per year each. Now that number is pre-tax, right? So when we actually take the taxes out and calculate what our take-home pay would be, I feel like I always say take-home pay. Our take-home pay was $53,518.92 each per year, which ends up being $4,459.91 per month each. Now with that, our money goals for the year were to invest $2,000 per month each. Now obviously with that, we also wanted to be able to make enough money in our business or generate enough revenue to sustain our salaries and actually invest that amount all year long. Then for me personally, I had a few different goals. I wanted to re-max out my TFSA for the year. I wanted to open up and then max out for the current year my FHSA. I wanted to open and start investing in an RRSP. I wanted to invest $30,000 for the year total. And I also wanted to spend $0 on UberEats or takeout for the year. Now for Dennis, he wanted to max out his TFSA for the first time. He also wanted to open up and start using an FHSA. And then he also wanted to make sure that he filled out his budget tracker or our budget template every single month for the whole year, which was actually also my goal too. Okay, so now that we have all of that out of the way, let's go through and see how much money we actually did make, save, and invest this year, see if we had all of those different goals, basically just see all of the different results.
Okay guys, quick interruption from the video because we have a really exciting announcement. So we've been working like crazy behind the scenes this year on our new investment course that's officially dropping on December 26th. Now that's in 4 days or less if you're watching this later. It's called Simple Investing for Canadians, and it covers everything that you need to know in order to start investing in the stock market the simple way. You can find more information in the description box below, so please check it out. Now let's get back to the video. Okay, so kind of like what Steph was saying, this has definitely been our most consistent / steady year yet from a salaries perspective. And now that we've been doing this for over 3 years, I would say that we definitely have a better grasp on how things work. So for example, how we make money, when we make money, how much we want to be paying ourselves versus how much money we want to keep in the business, basically stuff like that. So we paid ourselves out the same salary each, and that was $4,459.91, and that was for the entire year. So basically what that means is that from our monthly income, we made a grand total of $53,518.82 for the entire year. Now with that monthly salary, we were able to invest $2,000 a month each. So right off the bat, that's a huge check mark for that first goal. And we were also able to make enough revenue to sustain those salaries and investment goals. Now on top of our main salaries, we normally pay ourselves a bonus every year at the end of each year after seeing how much we made and depending on what makes sense for us. This year, we landed on paying ourselves out a $10,000 bonus each after taxes, which means that if we look at the entirety of the year, that means that we paid ourselves out a total income of $63,518.92. Now we plan on saving or investing all of that total bonus amount as opposed to spending it. So what that means is that it'll be added to our total savings and investments for the entire year.
So like Dennis mentioned, we were able to invest that $2,000 per month each. And with that, it was able to hit my goal of remaxing out my TFSA, which was definitely really exciting. Now, if we actually take a look at that account, it was sitting at the very beginning of the year at about $62,500 because I actually maxed it out for the first time at the end of 2023, so at the end of last year, and that would have been my total contribution limit at the time. Now, I gained an extra $7,000 of contribution room for 2024, so after adding in my $2,000 a month investment contribution in January, February, and March, plus a little bit of extra to actually hit my new limit of $69,500, I was able to remax it out for the year in March. Now, after my TFSA was remaxed out, I opened up my FHSA and started putting my $2,000 monthly investment contributions there instead, which meant that it only took me about 4 months to max out my FHSA as well, which was obviously the plan. $2,000 a month for 4 months would have hit my max contribution for that account. So at that point, we were in the summer, and then I opened up my RSP and just started allocating my $2,000 monthly contributions there instead, and that's what I did for the rest of the year. Now, in general, I ended up investing $24,000 throughout the year because I stuck to that $2,000 per month for all 12 months of the year. And like Dennis mentioned, we're going to be paying ourselves out a bonus of $10,000, and I'm going to be putting most of that towards my investments, which means that I'll be able to hit my goal of investing a total of $30,000 this year, which I'm very excited about because you never know until the very end of the year if that's going to happen or not based on our bonuses. Now, specifically, I'm going to be putting, I think, $8,000 of the 10 towards my investments, meaning that I'll have invested a total of $32,000 for the year, and then the other amount will be in my savings and checking account as additional buffer room for next year. Now, Dennis also stuck to his goal of investing $2,000 a month, and on top of that, he actually also invested his $1,000 tax refund that he got this year for a bit of an extra boost. And on top of both of those investing goals, he also maxed out his TFSA for the year, which is so exciting. I was so happy for him because this is obviously such a big deal just in general, but also for him. You guys might know if you've been watching our videos for a while too, he started his personal finance journey with $50,000 of student loan debt. So going from $50,000 in debt to paying that off and now maxing out and hitting his $75,000 TFSA contribution limit, that's a massive swing and is just such a big deal. Anyways, after he maxed out his TFSA, he then opened up and started to use his FHSA, which was the plan, but he actually also was able to max that out just last month. So very exciting too. He was basically able to go even farther than the investment goals that he set for the year. So overall, when I look back at it like this, we actually had a really big year where we hit a lot of really big investing goals specifically, which is obviously just really nice in general. For us, it was also nice because, like I said, this has been our most steady self-employed year yet. We had a few years in the past that were a little bit more uncertain. We were paying ourselves out less because we were still trying to grow our business and make more money, right? So it felt really nice to actually hit some of these big goals for the year. I feel just happy and grateful looking back and reflecting on it from that perspective. And it's also going to be really fun to set our goals, our money goals in general and investing goals specifically for next year. And you guys are going to see a video on that in a few weeks.
Now let's talk about savings. Now, at the end of last year, I said that my goal was to have $30,000 in savings. And I did hit that goal at the time. So $10,000 of that was my emergency fund. And then the other $20,000 was for a future real estate investment, which by the way was one of our goals for 2024. Now, at some point earlier this year, Steph and I decided to hit pause on that goal again. Basically for us in the short term, we've changed our focus to it being more on our business. So working even more on our business as opposed to real estate. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to invest in real estate at some point in the future, but just not right now. So with that, basically what ended up happening is I actually ended up investing that $20,000, which again is a big reason why I was able to max out my TFSA and my FHSA for the year. So Steph and I didn't really put any money towards savings this year. Our money actually either went towards our expenses or our investments, except I do need to top up my emergency fund right now because it is under that $10,000 threshold that I have. So basically what I'll probably end up doing is I'll take $5,000 from my $10,000 bonus, put that towards that, and then the other $5,000 will likely go towards my investments. So to sum up where we're at so far this year, we've made $63,518.92 each. I've saved $5,000, Steph has saved $2,000. I've invested $30,555.71, and Steph has invested $32,000. Now, spending wise, I spent $35,761.49, and Steph spent $31,604.56. Now, on top of that, we definitely were on point with our budgeting game this year, so that's a big check mark to actually filling out our budget trackers each and every single month. So yeah, that's exciting. We definitely found that being on top of our budget, so creating specific budget goals per category and keeping track of every single transaction has really helped us be more intentional with where our money is going and what we're doing with it. We were actually comparing our spending last year compared to this year, so 2023 versus 2024. And Steph spent, I believe, about $37,000 last year and almost $32,000 this year. And there's a really big category that she's going to talk about in a second where she's going to explain how she was able to cut back on that specific category. For me, I spent about $33,000 last year and close to $36,000 this year. Now, if you want to know why that would ever happen, make sure you check out last week's video.
Okay, now the last thing that we have to talk about in this video is how my $0 Uber Eats challenge went. Now, in case you missed it, I think my biggest goal, well, actually definitely my biggest goal and challenge for 2024 was to spend $0 on Uber Eats, but also just any delivery food or takeout at all. Now, the reason that I set up this challenge in the first place is actually because when we were doing this exact video last year, I realized that I spent so much money. I am not exaggerating when I say so much money on eating out. I think I spent over $4,700 on eating out in restaurants in general. And when I dug deeper into that to see like how this happened, what's the culprit, I spent specifically $2,229.99 on Uber Eats and delivery food alone, which is just insane. And I knew I needed to cut that down. Now, like I said, I personally felt like this was crazy. I know a lot of people spend a lot of money on eating out, but I didn't want it to be nearly that high in the future. So I set the goal of spending $0 and takeout food at all. Now, even though I set that goal, I think I still felt like it was a little unrealistic. I was just aiming high. I felt like if I set for 0, then even if I fell short, I would at least be reducing how much I spent last year. Kind of like the fun little metaphor, aim for the moon, land among the stars. That's what I was hoping would happen. But I found that I actually really liked the challenge and felt really motivated by it. And I think the main thing that really helped me was the sub goal, like little smaller goal that I set beneath this, which was to cook more recipes at home, which I really like doing. I ended up cooking a ton of new recipes this year and remaking some of my favorite ones a lot. And I feel like I really improved my cooking skills. And I think that part was a big piece of it because I felt really empowered and happy with that part. So I successfully did it. I actually spent $0 on Uber Eats and delivery apps at all this year, which is so exciting. I'm actually so proud of myself for being able to stick to it. And I think I'm officially going to set this goal again for next year. I feel like I'm on the roll, so why not keep it up? So I'm going to try and spend $0 on Uber Eats and delivery apps, takeout food again next year too. Now, the other thing that's really interesting is I actually tallied the numbers up and I only spent $2,289-ish on eating out this year in general. So on restaurants, that's so much less money than I spent last year. I think I ended up saving almost $2,500 overall, which is just really great for my overall financial picture.
It's always interesting looking back on our year in this way, and it's kind of funny because this year was actually pretty different from last year, but when you put it all together, it really does look like a highlight reel. Like last year, we did a lot of traveling and had a lot of really cool experiences, whereas this year, I would say we stayed more closer to home, but we still got to have a lot more, fun, local experiences along with work experiences. So for example, this year we were featured on the Toronto Star's top 24 creators list, and we got to be in the newspaper for that. So that was really exciting. We also just had we got invited to a lot more local events in Toronto. So that was also cool. And we've also been working like really, really hard behind the scenes on our investing course that's coming out very, very soon. Now, with all that being said, we want to make sure that you're not comparing our highlights to whatever happened throughout your year. Keep in mind that there's always, with everyone, right? There's always things that happen behind the scenes that we might not necessarily share or other people might not necessarily share. So keep in mind that whatever happened in your year, you're doing great and you're gonna have an even better 2025. Now, with that being said, make sure you let us know how much you either made, saved, or invested down in the comments below, and we'll be back next week with another video.